And is all of council in now?
Yes, they
Maybe Councillor Bateman
I'm here
and
too.
okay, I'm just waiting for, if you turn your video on, and Councillor La Jeunesse, I see you. Who do I not see? There, I see everybody. That's great. So we're all ready to begin. Kate, it's 7 o'clock. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for being available for tonight's special council meeting. I just find my agenda here. So I'm calling this meeting to order, and I do wish to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting virtually on the territory of the Sauk Nation. And if you haven't muted, please do so, just to avoid any feedback. Our first item of business is item 5, Ministerial Order M192, that council is holding this meeting without members of the public in attendance under Ministerial Order M192, as council chambers cannot safely accommodate the unknown number of public participants wishing to attend, and that council is committed to ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability through the submission of written comments and the provision of live and recorded broadcasts of the meeting. So look for a mover of this, moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor La Jeunesse. Any comments from council? Seen this one before. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? None opposed. That carries unanimously. Thank you. Look for approval of tonight's special meeting, approval of the agenda, so that the agenda for the December 16, 2020 special meeting of council be adopted as amended. So item 9.1, the notice of motion from Councillor Beddows moved to immediately before item 8.1, the draft 2021 to 25 5-year financial plan. Ms. Machada?
Did you want to add the FCM resolution discussion to new business?
We can, and then also inclusion of FCM correspondence as a new business item. So I'll look for a mover of the agenda as it's amended, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that carries unanimously. Item 7, public question and comment period. I'll just ask staff, do we have any members of the public registered to address council?
No, Your Worship, we do not.
Thank you very much. Okay, so then that brings us right into item 9.1, since we've reordered the agenda slightly. So this is a notice of motion from Councillor Beddows, and that motion that is that mayor and councillor salaries be increased by 5% for the 2021 budget cycle, and that council appoint an advisory panel to bring forward suggestions for future mayor and councillor salary increases. That's moved by Councillor Beddows and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Ms. Machada, I see your hand again.
We would need a resolution to waive notice of motion.
Okay, so maybe I need to, because I just had that other piece moved and seconded. Help me out here, since I have to waive notice. Can I just park that? Maybe the mover and seconder. Can you just I'm just going to withdraw that.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay, so we can do this other piece. So first one here then is a request to waive notice on this notice of motion. Councillor St. Pierre has moved the notice and seconded by Councillor Beddows. Discussion on waiving notice? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of waiving notice? Anyone, if no one's opposed, that carried unanimously. So now I'll go to the notice of motion. Thank you for bearing with me. So moved by Councillor Beddows, that mayor and councillor salaries be increased by 5% for 2021 budget cycle. Council appoint an advisory panel, bring forward suggestions for future salary increases. So that's moved by Councillor Beddows, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre, That puts us right into discussion. I'll go to the mover first. Councillor Beddows, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. We had a look at this a couple of years ago and came up with some raises that would bring us up parity to what we were getting in 2008 dollars, and that was just over 15,000 for a councillor and 30,000 for the mayor. But that's 2 years old. That was to bring us up to that point, and now we're looking at the past 2 years and the next 2 years. I did some homework, and Powell River, same population, their councils get 25,000. Parksville, right now, they get 16,900, just under 17,000. Sydney, 18,000. And I think Ladysmith, they're in the process of already locked it in until 2024, and they will go up to 16,166. I just suggested the 5%, considering the COVID year, and for this year, because we need to do it now. This is our only opportunity, because if we leave it any longer, the budget's set, and then we have to do another makeup next year. So what I proposed was a 5% across the board for all of us, including the mayor. And next year, the other recommendation was to strike a panel. Now, I'm not hard and fast on striking a panel. I just put it on here for discussion, and I'm willing to have a look at rechange that, because I'm just as happy to set a second year amount as well, and then let the new council in 2024 strike the committee. And my concerns with striking a committee, they've been going on too long here, or tell me if I am, but striking a committee is just another committee, another group of terms of reference. And when we get it set up and going, I think we're sort of running out of time. So I will leave the suggestions, my motion the way it is, and allow other councillors to weigh in on this, because it affects us all.
Thank you, Councillor Beddows. Councillor St. Pierre is the seconder.
I'm just going to comment on the second part of the resolution, and I would prefer myself not to punt it to the next council, whoever they may be. It's unpleasant to actually have that drop on you in your first year and so on. So I think that it'd be nice if it doesn't have, the committee doesn't have to have this, have that, but if this resolution gets taken care of now, we're not just passing the problem on to the future. And I would prefer to have a panel set, because I think that was what we had actually discussed a couple of years back.
Thank you. Other councillors wishing to speak on this? Councillor McMath?
I just want to get away from it being sort of like a political issue, or like it wasn't touched for over a decade because people would say things like, oh, you know, you do it for the love of your community. You know, you should be volunteering your time. This is just not reasonable, especially now. And so if you want a good spectrum of the community, this job can't be financially ostracizing, and it is. That being said, I'm not interested in the committees. I'm not interested in people's personal opinions or any of that. I'd rather just make it a set formula. So we take 10 similarly sized communities, we do the average of their compensation. That's what ours is. And then the increase follows the consumer price index. Like, just take all of the emotion, take all of the opinions right out of it, and just make it a formula and set it up. And I think that's something that staff can do.
Okay, Councillor Logans.
I agree with Councillor McMath. I'm sure that's how our conversation went last time, is that we don't need a committee to do this. We just need to make the decision. And that's why it took so many meetings to literally just make the decision, because we were discussing whether or not to have a committee to decide it for us. In the end, it turned out just fine when we made the decision. So I agree, if we have a chart that lays out the next few years, perhaps a 5-year plan to match our 5-year financial plan, that would be the best way to do it.
Okay, I see a hand here for a first-time speaker. Councillor Bateman, go ahead.
Yeah, I was initially thinking, yeah, a panel would be a good idea. I think that's a best practice in year 3, or as it used to be, or year 4 of a council's term is to establish the committee. But what Councillor McMath just said makes perfect sense to me. So here we go.
Councillor, I'll go back to Councillor Beddows then, and then St. Pierre.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that Councillor McMath makes, because I looked at what Ladysmith did, and they have something similar to what she's suggesting, because I was trying to get current data, and they have theirs laid out for all the way to 2024 of what the raises are. So they obviously have some sort of formula. I don't know how they arrived at it, but I'd be okay with staff consulting Ladysmith and see how they came up with those numbers, and we could live by something like that. I do think right now, and it's the 2021 year, that we best put in 5%. And then if we modify the second part of that motion to have staff, check into some sort of matrix that we could use in the future, I'm okay with that too.
Okay, so then what I want to do is sever this motion in half. So I'll look for a motion to sever these 2 points. Moved by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor Bateman. So this way they can be discussed separately.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question on severing. All those in favor of severing the 2? Okay, and that's carried unanimously. So that breaks it up a bit here. So we'll talk about the first one. Councillor Logans, I saw your hand. Would you like to speak then, now that we're just on the first part?
I'd like to speak to the second motion.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on the first part? Okay, you've spoken twice, Councillor Beddows, so you're kind of done. Anyone else? Is there anything new you wanted to add, Councillor Beddows?
Just that I just threw that 5% out. If you're happy with the 5%, that's fine. I'm just saying that if somebody had some other argument, then I'm okay with listening to it. But if you're happy with the 5%, I'm happy with proceeding. So that's all. Okay,
I'm not seeing any, there hasn't been any amendment or any disagreement there. So I will call the question on the first one then. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. So the second part is on the advisory panel. Ms. Machada?
I just wanted to make mention that a bylaw amendment will need to come forward in January, as the remuneration is set through bylaw. So we can have that ready to bring forward January 11th. It would receive final January 25th, and then we can just make that retroactive to January 1st.
Understood. Thank you very much. So the next part that has been moved, that is the second part here, is on the advisory panel. So go to Councillor Logans. This was the item that I believe you wanted to speak on.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to also remind everyone that one of the reasons we discussed, is that a word? Discussed not having a panel was because the community actually brought this forward to us. This was not a council idea, it was a community idea, and a group of people came together and provided us with a bigger raise than we actually ended up giving ourselves. So that is something important to remember as we go into this vote.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Logans. Councillor St. Pierre.
No, I'm more than happy to deal with this in an efficient and expeditious manner. I like the idea of seeing what's happening in Ladysmith, seeing what kind of formula they're using, and leaving it up to staff to come up with a formula that we can look at in January. I think that Councillor Beddows is absolutely right. There's a lot of committees going on. If we can avoid another one that's not needed, let's avoid it.
Okay, so yeah, on this, I mean, it's always good to get that. So in both cases, it's been interesting. Like what I recall back in 2008, there was an advisory committee. They presented to council, but council did not endorse all of the recommendations. They went with something different. And similarly, a community group brought this forward to us, and we adopted something different. So there is the point of, when you form a committee, you don't follow the recommendations. What do you have the committee for? So I do like the idea, I mean, to have our staff reach out to the Ladysmith's report is publicly available. But to find that, there's also the UBCM remuneration guide that's come out. So in this case, we would be tasking this to staff in case. So I'm just trying, an amendment could be that council, instead of appoint an advisory panel, would be to strike that out and that council directs staff to bring forward suggestions for future mayor councillor salary increases. Councillor Beddows?
Yeah, I like that approach, and I was just about to suggest it. And one being that the urgency.
We don't have the amendment, so would you like to make that amendment and then you can speak to it?
Sure.
Okay, so Councillor Beddows will move the amendment then to strike out appoint an advisory panel and instead put that council direct staff. So that's moved by Councillor Beddows, seconded by Councillor Logans. Now you can speak to it, Councillor Beddows.
All right, good. Yeah, I don't want to be stifled here. And the reason being is that the 5% we have to decide today, because that's when our financial statement goes out. We have a little bit more time to deal with whether we go for a panel or we get the feedback from Ladysmith, and I am more interested at this point in time in getting the feedback. We could still in January, February vote to have a panel put in for the 2022 year if we so wish. So I think this is the best of two worlds and I'd like to proceed with it.
Okay, Councillor Logans as the seconder. Yeah. Good. Councillor St. Pierre on the amendment, nothing? You're good. Okay. Anything from anyone on the amendment? Okay, call the question on the amendment, please. All those in favor of the amendment? Anyone opposed of the amendment? No, that carries unanimously. So now I'll look for the main amended motion, please. Is there any discussion on the main amended motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much for that. Back into the agenda, item 8.1 is the draft 2021 to 25 5-year financial plan. So I'll turn this to staff, please. Welcome, Ms. Gray.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just give me 2 seconds here and I will share my screen. I just have a mini PowerPoint to go through. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to provide a quick recap on the 5-year financial plan and where we're at. So, sorry, just trying to figure out. Oh, there we go. So I just wanted to quickly highlight that the inputs to the 2021 to 2025 5-year financial plan were expenses and items to help council achieve your strategic plan goals, incorporating citizen budget and any other public feedback we've received. There's department requests included, any feedback from the service level review meeting, and of course the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant proposals. There's 2 small changes to the budget from the draft presented that received first and second reading. And that would be per council resolution, there's a reallocation of e-bike funding from the carbon tax rebate reserve to the COVID-19 Safe Restart Reserve. And the other addition to the budget is carrying forward fire department car 1 replacement from 2020 to 2021. That was just an oversight in the original draft, so I've just added that back in and just want to confirm both of those adjustments have no property tax impact. However, the resolution that council just passed will have a $6,000 impact on the 2021 to 2025 5-year financial plan, so that will be incorporated as amended in the final draft before adopted. Just quickly touching on some of the public consultation. As I stated before, we're required to do this as part of the budget presentation or information. And just wanted to highlight some feedback. So as council is aware, we had a virtual open house on December 8th, 2 sessions, one in the morning from 9:30 to 11 and one in the evening from 6:30 till 8. And in order to promote those, the 2 open houses, we did a news release, a website update, which had over 50 views on it and average viewing time of 4 minutes and 38 seconds. It was shared on a local Facebook page, CFAX through their Twitter. There was print advertisements in the Sooke News Mirror. There was district issued budget tweets from our Twitter account. There was an electronic newsletter distribution on December 4th, which saw 48 people open it. There was 2 editorials in the Sooke News Mirror in regards to the budget. And what else? And so in order to get some information for potential questions to answer, there was outreach in the social media world, and that provided some questions that were answered during the presentations. After both the presentations, the feedback we received was thanks for the opportunity to participate. I learned quite a bit and have a much better understanding. Presentations were very clear, making it easier for Sooke citizens to access information, so thank you. And then on December 10th, both recordings were posted on Sooke's YouTube channel, and as of this morning, the evening session had 660 views. So overall, I think that was, for having to do a virtual open house and not having the ability to meet in person, I think it was done as good as we could do it based on the situation. And the feedback we received has been positive. And like I said, there's over 600 views on the evening open house on our YouTube channel. And for average council meetings, there's not usually a lot. So with that, probably just leave that there. So this is in front of you, that council give third reading as amended to the bylaw cited as the 5-year financial plan bylaw. So I'll just leave that there and open it up if council has any questions.
Okay, so I'm sticking to our adopted procedural bylaw here, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions first. Questions from members of council. Councillor McMath.
I've just been asking for information from fire about the money that we contribute to them. I asked the question last meeting. Any update on that?
Okay, I'll go to Mr. McInnes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Chief Mount is prepared to answer that question.
Okay, I'll turn to the chief then, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Through the chair to Councillor McMath, we did have a meeting with the president and initially the vice president on December 8th. The vice president couldn't attend due to work commitments. The outcome of that meeting was, quite good. There was a understanding of the need of transparency, and that was appreciated amongst the president. The president supported a subsequent meeting with his members for a quick turnaround of information. So a response back with more time for follow-up is still necessary, and with complete membership involved. The discussions led further also to the future ownership and oversight of the gym and the release of equipment. And the CAO and I have had a discussion that we need time to review the impact of this change and what it may have with the association. We also discussed the agreement and renewal for the lounge. So it really will be in the new year till we have more information with full association support with the expected change. And that's my update.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Did you have any follow-up, Councillor McMath?
I find that very, very frustrating because I'd asked for this information almost a year ago. And so I just don't understand the lag here.
Perhaps either the chief or Mr. McInnes can answer.
Through your worship to Councillor McMath, I think the lag would have to do with the initial response that happened in March 9th by email. And then, of course, we had the COVID implications, and that association didn't have any meetings at all, likely till the end of August, I recall, was the first time they actually met as a group association. And so they really had just a couple meetings, and the meeting request was a special one with them. And it is difficult to get, the volunteer members together as an executive to have quorum to make, full decisions. So that's my understanding perspective on why there would be a lag and the perception of a lag during this year.
Sorry, it's just there's no reason with all those things considered that a year doesn't suffice as enough time to get that information. And I want that information. I just want to make this clear as well. I want the information because my function is to know what the district is spending money on. It's not that I'm here to micromanage at all. It's just that if we're going to continually give that amount of money, there's no rules, there's no regulation, there's no oversight there. And it's just like, that's something that is just not good practice. And so I find I'm just very, very, very disappointed and very frustrated that after a year, I still can't have that information. And it kind of puts me in the frame of like, if you're not able to get that information within a year, then especially after we've all acknowledged that how we've changed it and how it's now not just a completely volunteer hall, but it's paid as well, that would be shifting and minimizing as well. So it's not, I really am really frustrated with why we're here now and there's nothing changed. So how am I supposed to approve that money being given when I don't have that information? It's just a really awkward situation to be in.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McMath. And yeah, I mean, it's similarly, we have service agreements that are in place, and there's outlined in those signed agreements in terms of reporting that needs to occur and reporting that hasn't happened. And our finance staff is following up with many different groups to sort of bring everyone together onto the same page. So sort of suspect maybe we can address this in the same way. But Mr. McInnes, anything to add to what you've heard?
No, thank you, Your Worship, and you're exactly right. There is no parameters around this, and we do know now that some of these funds were meant to maintain some assets that likely should come back to the district to manage, as opposed to the Volunteer Firefighters Association. The other thing that's really important here is, and what I don't understand yet at this point, is the connection between the money to the association and the paid on call. One thing I do know though is that we are having some issues, especially COVID related, around retention and recruitment. And I want to totally understand the implications before we bring something back to council. I agree with Chief Mount. I think there's an understanding on all parts that some of this money should likely come back to the district and be stewarded through the district. But as I said at the last meeting when Councillor McMath did bring this up, we would endeavor to have those answers for tonight, but we did commit to having them before the budget is finally adopted on January 11th.
Okay. Other questions for councillors? Questions on the budget? So there's some new information that I need to bring to your attention. I'll go to Councillor Bateman first with his question and then mine. So Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, just on a very, very small matter is the budget implication of that 5% we just voted ourselves. Ms. Gray, do you have any comments on that?
She commented that it's $6,000 for the year. So there will be an adjustment that will be made.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Through your worship. Yeah, it's $6,000. So it's a 0.07% property tax increase. So minor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lajeunesse, I see your hand for a question.
Yeah, I guess my question is again on the two vehicles for bylaw and parks. I'm just struggle with the 50K per vehicle on those. And I'm just wondering if we've investigated the idea of looking at secondhand vehicles. I mean, you can pretty easily find a 2-year X lease and drop the price by %, I would think, on both of those vehicles, and you can still get a very high quality vehicle that way. The
So maybe
50K just seems expensive to me.
Can you maybe talk a bit about that? If you could answer that, Ms. Gray, just in terms of how that breaks down a bit.
For sure. Through your worship, and perhaps when I'm finished, if Mr. Carter has more to add, he can potentially talk about fleet. So there's always the budget being $50,000. That doesn't mean that we have to spend $50,000 on the vehicle. That in theory is just the maximum funding that we could spend on the vehicle, because we will definitely be looking at hybrid options of vehicles, and potentially, depending on the quality of the vehicle, like if it means exactly as you're stating, Councillor Lejeunesse, if there's you know, a cheaper option available, staff will definitely investigate that option, and if it's appropriate to invest the funds in that, then purchase that vehicle. And on top of that, like, just to confirm as well, when we get the vehicles, there is additional costs to install the proper lighting and signage, et cetera, on the vehicles and outfit them with that. I believe Chief Mount spoke to that in regards to his fire truck. So there is as well that cost on top of the cost of purchasing it off the lot. So definitely that is the maximum budget that could be available for these vehicles, but staff will definitely, if there's a more efficient, cost-efficient options out there, we will definitely explore that.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Carter wants to add anything about used vehicles.
Thanks, Ms. Gray. No, nothing more to really add. It's just it's difficult in terms of procurement, which Ms. Gray can highlight on, to actually put procurement in place for used vehicles and just going to purchase them online. I've come into that challenge many times before in my career, and you can get challenged on it in many different ways. But typically, it's good to go with new fleet replacement, and as Ms. Gray has indicated, $50,000 is a good benchmark for a maximum amount without having to come back to council.
Okay, Councillor Bateman, yet another question?
No, I don't. That's.
Oh, it's still
has vanished. Yeah.
Okay, sort of comes and goes. Okay, so there's some new information that I want to share with you. Last week, I was in a conference call with the Assistant Deputy Minister and Director of Police Services, Policing and Security Branch. And in the meeting were the mayors from invited Colwood, Ladysmith, Langford, North Cowichan, North Saanich, Sydney, Souk, and View Royal. So they put forward this meeting, and basically, I'm going to just share. It says this supports consolidation and integration of policing services as an opportunity to provide a better service and improve public safety as information sharing amongst police units. As part of this commitment, the province continues to support the initiative to consolidate police call taking and dispatch services in Southern Vancouver Island in one location, with services provided through the South Island Police Dispatch Centre operated by ECOM. As you are aware, the full transition of ECOM services was completed in January 2019. Going forward, new service agreements and funding arrangements are necessary to ensure services are effectively and efficiently maintained. To discuss these responsibilities, you are invited to join me on this call. This meeting will provide some important background and information and new proceeds that will impact 2021 budgets, and a meeting request was sent. So that was the letter I received, and both myself and Mr. McInnes attended the call. But basically what was dropped on me, and I'm still reeling from this, is that yes, the federal government and provincial government have met over the past 12 months and have determined that all costs should transition to local governments. So right now, the federal government pays 70% and the provincial government pay 30%. And they decided, well, actually local government should be paying 100% of all of this. Let them know, and we're going to transition it to you. So they said for 2021, the province will take on the full 100% and engage and consult with us to transfer the whole bill to us in the years that follow. So my concern is that this call was over a week ago and there has been no follow-up written brief, and I have no idea about what this cost is going to be. It's just that it feels expensive to me. So we pushed back considerably in that we're paying the full bill. Do we collect any of the 911 levy that is on various phone bills everywhere? What role do we have in governance of this whole piece? And what are we here? We're now the primary funder, yet we have no say in the governance, the operations, we just pay all the bills. So naturally, a lot of concern on this. We all took a pause to breathe, and we'll reconnect in January to look at what our next steps is. The reason why I'm raising this is that while it doesn't impact 2021, it certainly might in the years to come, but I don't know what that is. So within the budget, we did put in the funding for an additional police officer. We know that that is likely about a 2-year process for the new member to land here in Souk, and I still fully support that. However, I want to just hold off a little bit on starting that process until we know what this cost impact is going to be. Now, the deputy minister then somehow said, well, it was the RCMP that wants this, and that to me sounds just odd. I mean, I don't know, I need to follow up on where that is being said, but the risk of just, okay, well, it's nothing and it's fine, is that in 2 years as our population grows, we know we will pay more for policing, and that's fine, we understand that. We've also had incremental costs come our way. So last year we funded an increase to victim services. This year we're funding more for Crime Stoppers. And that's all fine. Those are like $40,000 expenses. A new member we know is roughly about 180 to 200,000. So now if this turns out to be only a $40,000 expense, I think we can absorb that. If it's considerably more, we need to look at everything. So I still feel that that new officer should be in the budget. I just don't want to start that process until we know the cost impact of this. And that's really all I know, and I have nothing to share, and I'm disappointed. And when I had a meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs this week, I did share, we need the information. We're in the middle of budget planning, and we have no idea what this cost impact will be. So all of that is coming, and I'm just going to ask staff here, just with my question to Mr. McInnes, knowing this, like, how do we plan for that hiring of that new police officer? Like, what would, is it adoption of the budget that would start that process? And can we communicate to our base commander that we just need to pause, not stop that, but we need time to absorb this potential cost impact?
So my understanding of the process is a pause will have little impact on our current 5-year financial plan that's in front of council today, but the timing of getting the letter to the RCMP really does make a commitment on our part. So once we send the letter saying we want to increase our strength by 1 officer, there is a commitment made there. So we can't send that letter because that letter does commit us to a new officer. So we won't do that. I don't think we need to change anything in the 5-year financial plan as it is in front of council, but perhaps a resolution from council not to start that process will make it clear and have a paper trail and an obligation then for administration to come back if indeed we do want to start that process somewhere down the road.
Okay, so I don't like negatives in a motion, like to put not into it. It can sometimes be confusing. So maybe that I'm going to suggest a motion and that council directs staff to pause or hold off on the RCMP recruitment process until the known costs of the e-com dispatch service transfer fees are known. Now I'm making a motion on the fly, but it's part of this process that we're in. So, Ms. Machado, are you able just to put that on the screen or at least to read it out? Or did you catch what I said?
I got the gist of it, is that council directs staff to hold off on the RCMP recruitment until the full costs of dispatch services are known.
Okay, so I would like to make that motion, and I'm looking for a seconder, please. I'm moving that. Okay, seconded by Councillor Bateman. I think I saw your hand first. So I needed to provide the context and to share that new information. Once I have this and anything from the province, actually, I'll forward that off to council and to staff, and also keep you apprised in terms of what the mayors are doing in January through regular updates there. And again, I fully support our RCMP detachment, and I just wanted that other piece about the e-com transfer together in that motion to say that we're not wanting to, we're only stopping this because of this new cost. And I feel that that's reasonable because we don't know what it is. Okay, anything from the seconder, Councillor Bateman? No, okay, any other discussion or comments from members of council? Okay, seeing none, all in favor then? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much for your support on that. So that brings us to the motion that's in front of us, and that is that council give third reading as amended to the bylaw cited as 5-year financial plan bylaw number 799/2020. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. So on the motion, Councillor McMath? No? Okay. Councillor St. Pierre? Okay. Does anyone have any comments on the motion? We've discussed this a lot, so how about I just say thank you to Ms. Gray and your team. You've hung in through a lot of meetings to the end and given us very good information to process, and thank you for the work that you're doing. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anyone? No one's opposed. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, the next one is the sewer specified area bylaw revision. Mr. McInnes?
Thank you, Your Worship. The core sewer service specified area bylaw number 804/2020 is in front of you tonight to correct a clerical error on the Schedule A of the Souk core sewer service specified area bylaw 147. The map in bylaw 147 includes a portion of lot 2, plan 46871, sections 18 and 19. That lot 2 is a split zoned lot, and the bylaw map follows the zoning boundary where it should actually follow the boundary of the lot. If the revision bylaw on the agenda tonight receives third reading and adoption in January, it will allow the corporate officer to replace the map within Schedule A. So accordingly, we're recommending that council give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw cited as Souk core sewer specified area revision bylaw number 804/2020. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this bylaw if there are any.
Okay. Any questions from members of council? Seems straightforward, so I'll look for a mover of the motion, please. Moved by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any discussion on the motion from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, getting into some new business. We have We've dealt with 9.1, so 9.2, there's a request first to waive notice. So I'll look for a motion to waive notice, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor of waiving notice? And none opposed. That carries unanimously. So the motion from Councillor Bateman is that council support the Souk Food Bank with a one-time COVID year donation of X dollars from council contingency. So the mystery to me is, what does X equal? So I'll turn this to, I'll look first for, this is an incomplete motion to me. So I need you to actually put an amount in so we can discuss it. So Councillor Bateman, an amount.
Well, I did put X because this will be the discussion, but let's say $10,000 as a starting point, and
Okay.
I have some comments. So
We don't have a seconder yet. You can't speak to it until we have a seconder. So the motion then would be that council support the food bank with a one-time COVID donation of 10,000. That's moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Beddows. Okay, discussion. Councillor Bateman, you have the floor.
All right. So this is a follow-up to Kim Cadell's visit with us last month. And when she spoke to us, she told us that given all the hardships that people are experiencing during this COVID year, demand at the food bank had increased dramatically, and that the food bank was looking at being about $35,000 short by year's end. So as ever, that was back on November 23rd, as ever, the community has rallied big time, as it always does, with cash this year, not canned goods. And I could cite at least a dozen initiatives, including tomorrow the Souk firefighters are handing over a check that apparently exceeds considerably the $15,000 goal of the Santa Run. And I know the mayor, you received a surprise that you'll tell us about shortly, I'm sure. And I exchanged some emails with Kim today, and she acknowledged we are doing well financially, and we are desperate for a building, right? So that she's back to one of the key themes she addressed with us. That need for a new building. And in conversations with her, I know there's lots going on behind the scenes. She's, Kim used to work for Victoria Mayor Dean Fortin, and so she's pretty savvy. And so she's been talking with the Premier's office, and I know she's been talking with the mayor. And so I think things are going on behind the scenes. So perhaps their $10,000 from contingency is not necessary. However, we do have, as Ms. Gray confirmed, $32,000 in that budget. It will be rolled over into next year, which is good fiscal management at that $32,000, or we can contribute along with the Rotary Club, the Legion, Souk Home Hardware, Fields, Otterpoint Dental, 10,000 tonight. Village and Western, meanwhile in Souk raised $12,000. Perhaps we'd like to kick in some funds as well. So okay. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. So if a speaking order, I'll go to Councillor Beddows, then Logans, then St. Pierre. Councillor Beddows, you're up.
Yeah, thanks very much. Of course, I knew this was coming, and I had a long talk with Kim on Monday, actually, and they sort of feel that they're all right financially at the moment. They don't really need any more money, and that we might be better off to hold the money back to February, March, when they do get a dip. People forget after Christmas is over, the generosity falls off, and there might be some need there. So, but I again second this to get it on the floor, because I think there is some help down at the food bank that I'd like to put forward. I don't know whether this is out of order or not, but being that they don't need the money for the food bank, I just want to bring to everybody's attention that Kim down there, unlike other food banks, gets nothing. She does not get paid for that out of any form. Their constitution doesn't allow it, and they're going to revise their constitution at the next AGM, which is coming up. I'd be more inclined to maybe offer an honorarium to Kim because she just puts in tons of work. And even though, there's been a 30% increase in the need for food from the food bank, a lot of these other agencies, including the provincial government, has come in with cash. But this poor woman, not poor woman, this very woman that works so hard for our community gets nothing. And I'd much rather see us put a $5,000 honorarium, and I don't know where we can do that. I don't even know if it's in order. But if we were looking at spending some money out of our contingency, I would like to help that individual that has given over and above in this time. And if you've ever been down there and watching her work, other than getting by the language sometimes, she's pretty tenacious. Okay. And she calls a spade a spade. So anyways, I don't know where that goes, but I'm throwing it out there.
Okay. I'll go to Councillor St. Pierre, then Logan's, please.
Oh,
pardon me, no, that was out of order. It's Logan's first, then St. Pierre.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I kind of think this conversation is a bit out of order in the sense that we waived notice on a completely different motion than where this is headed. So that's sort of disappointing because I was comfortable waiving notice for a motion to give cash to the food bank for the Christmas season. But if it's turning into potentially funding a building and potentially funding an employee, I don't agree that this is the right place and time to discuss that. And another point would be that we don't fund people, whether it be grants or sponsorships. So I'm not sure that we're able to do that according to our policies. But I'd prefer we save this discussion for another day if that's where it's headed and if the food bank is saying they don't need cash at this time.
Okay. Councillor St. Pierre.
I tend to agree with a lot of what Councillor Logans is saying, but I do have one thought, and that's that you can provide a fish or you can provide a fishing pole, or in this case, I think what they really need is a freezer for all the fish. And I spoke to some people that do work with food banks, and the suggestion was that there's a Band-Aid needed in terms of their space situation. And I'm wondering if speaking with them, they might need help paying for rent on a place where they could actually keep freezers. If they can actually keep freezers, they can tap into a huge amount of meat and protein and food, and they can take a certain amount of money to be going towards rent and actually get a lot of food.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre, you've drifted off the motion a bit too in terms of the space needs. We did have the delegation, but you have drifted here. So we're looking, and Councillor Beddows was out of order, but I didn't catch it. So Councillor Logan's is steering me back here. Councillor McMath, did you have your hand up?
I did. Can I just maybe get clarity from Councillor Beddows why we would wait to give them the money? Like, can we just give them the money now? And if they don't want to spend it now, they don't have to spend it. They can spend it however they like.
Well, we're certainly open to, I mean, they just put it in the bank. I understand that. But I mean, when we're giving money to people without them even asking for it, it just doesn't quite fit with me. When I ask them how they're doing financially and they say they're fine, there's no need at the moment and there may be a need in the future, I'd much rather deal with the need in the future when it's there. So if the money's still left in our account, we may find a better use for it 2 months down the road. There may be some other reason for it. Basically, they haven't asked for help.
So can Councillor Bateman explain to me how come the motion's here now if they don't want the money?
Well, I think a lot had happened. Councillor Bateman, do you want to clarify your motion?
Well, yeah, I made the motion at the mayor's recommendation on November 24th, the day after we heard that they were going to be $35,000 short. And yes, we have learned this week that they are doing very well thanks to the generosity of the community. So that's why it's on the table. still. And it's a good conversation to have. As Councillor Logan points out, we're wandering off topic, but it's an important topic to wander off into.
Okay, but procedurally, we need to have all the information in front of us so that we know for transparency what we're discussing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that councillors do reach out and get other information, but then we all need to see that information to make a decision. So, and then rather than making motions right after we have delegations, that has steered us kind of in a long, strange direction sometimes, and it's hard to pull ourselves out of the rabbit hole. So that's why I'm like, hey, make a notice of motion, we'll discuss it. For myself, I don't like, our fiscal year is December 31st, so we don't really have an ability. Maybe Ms. Gray or you know, staff can comment back to sort of put this money in trust for when it might be needed by X organization. I'd rather just if we're going to fund the food bank, we fund it this year and they will take it and use it accordingly, right? This is just a one-time out the door. There's been a lot of good fortune within our community, a lot of generosity this year. The firefighters do an amazing job rallying community spirit, and our community certainly responds. And many people are aware of the need, which is why different, you know, businesses that have done well through COVID are giving back. Others are wanting to, like the Meanwhile in Souk, they've done this every year. I know our EMCS students usually do the $10,000 cans. They're doing something different. So everyone's trying to do something different to help. And for me, it was just entering a draw and actually winning it. Like, I didn't think that would happen, and it did. So that was good news. But for me, I didn't want it to take away, like, now that those things are responding, I still feel inclined to support the motion. Because I know that I've been at council tables in the past where come January and February, it's bare. They don't have anything. It's all at Christmas and then it's out. And I feel that COVID impact is going to stay with many for a long time. So if the food bank can just you know, I'd sort of rather leave it to them to manage their own resources. But maybe staff could comment, like, we don't have, like, just to set it in, like, how can we set something in case a group needs it in the future? I don't see that as a policy. In terms of honorariums, we have given honorariums to individuals in the past. In our community grant policy, we don't fund individuals, but we do allow for the funding of some administrative costs. But again, this would be different than that. This isn't a community grant application that we're vetting. It would, you know, going back to but I think that is a different conversation perhaps, because we don't, you know. So Ms. Gray, maybe could you just comment on holding funds in trust in case a group needs it? That just seems odd to me.
Hello, through your worship.
There you are. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, I got booted out for a second there. But I'm back. So yes, to confirm, you're correct that when the year ends, the carryover funds in the council contingency don't carry forward to 2021. So the budget resets at $80,000 per year. So at that time, council could make I guess any options on the table. If council prefers to make a resolution tonight and it will come out of the 2020 budget, or again, if further information is known in early in the new year, another resolution could be presented, and that would just mean that those funds would come out of 2021's budget.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go back to just the motion that's in front of us, and that is to support the food bank with a one-time COVID year donation of $10,000 from council contingency, which would be the 2020, this year's contingency budget. And we would write it and pay it out. And that is what's currently on the floor. That's been moved and seconded. So any further Councillor McMath on that motion?
It's just like Councillor had their hand up, but I can't tell anymore.
That wasn't your hand? I'm sorry. Councillor Loganson.
No, my hand is just accidentally up. I tried to take it down, but it
Okay.
didn't work.
Okay, since I can see you all, does anyone wish to speak on this? Councillor Beddows, there's a, okay.
Yay. Yeah,
Sorry.
I just wanted to thank Councillor Bateman for his intent. He saw a need, and I'm not opposed to going through with it at $10,000. You're right, they're going to need it sooner or later, and they may in fact vote to give an honorarium, which is up to them. But I just wanted to acknowledge Councillor Bateman in his charitable thoughts, and I thought that's a very good thing. So I'm willing to support the motion for $10,000.
Okay. Anything further? I see nothing, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, and that carries unanimously. There was a slow hand coming down or up from Councillor Bateman, but you moved the motion.
that's
It's your
me.
notice of motion. You can't really vote
Yeah,
against
I'm in
it.
favor.
You can't
Okay.
vote against your own motion? I thought you could.
Well, when you make a notice of motion and go through all that only to vote it, now it,
No,
it
you
doesn't
can't.
mean that hasn't been done in the past because I've seen it, but
I just thought that's how you get it on the floor for discussion. But anyway, it's good stuff. I'm very happy with that.
just procedurally, that would be the seconder. The seconder would say, okay, I'll second it for discussion, but when you're actually moving something, you want it to happen. But anyway, people have voted against their own motions, but that's an aside. Okay, that's wonderful. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Councillor Bateman, for bringing that forward for sure. Okay, so the next up is item 10.1, a letter of support request from Red House Solutions. So this is an item that's here. So I'm just looking at CMHC looking for a letter of support from the Francis Gardens Housing Co-op seeking funding. Seems, any questions? Seems supportable. Motion to write a letter of support. Councillor, moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Logans. Any comments from Councillor St. Pierre or Logans? Nope. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. The next item is the one on correspondence for action for floatplains. Councillor St. Pierre, I believe you might have pulled this. Go ahead.
Yes, actually, I got a response from Mr. McCullum, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was more a matter of we have a concern on the part of residents as to what the district's role is in terms of basically mitigating sound on the harbor. And I was hoping actually that perhaps our communication person could get some information out there on that, specifically in terms of the response we got from Mr. McCullum.
Okay, just a question for Mr. McInnes. Do you require a motion for communications coordinator to get some info out?
So the response from our bylaw officer, Your Worship, was that it's Transport Canada's jurisdiction. So I wouldn't want to put too much more information out than that.
Right.
Other than, you know, we've assessed the information, and there was some suggestion that this has been dealt with before in some other correspondence, so we certainly could go back and look at that. But just letting the Mr. Lawrence, I think it was, he knows of the situation now. It's on the council agenda tonight. Are you suggesting a press release or what sort of?
I'm
No.
not.
No, I think that's fine at this point.
Okay.
I put this out before getting the response from Mr. McCullum, and I'm satisfied at this point.
Okay. I think the one thing to keep in mind is the floatplains are testing electric engines, so it's going over time to be considerably quieter. Okay, motion to receive the correspondence by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor of receipt? And none opposed, that carries unanimously. Verbal reports, updates from members of council. It's your last time for this year. Councillor Logans, go ahead, please.
All of my meetings have been canceled till the new year, so I just wanted to say Happy New Year and Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Councillor Logans. Councillor Beddows.
Yeah, just the OCP committee meets tomorrow. I've heard a great deal of dialogue and some wonderful suggestions. They're very much engaged. The hard part, of course, is dealing with this COVID restriction and getting out there and doing something. We're bringing some ideas forward tomorrow, asking for a lot of clarity, and staff is responding to our request. So we are ticking along, but we do need a bit more clarity in exactly what we are to do and when we are to do it and who we are to consult with, because it's just sort of a strange learning process, but we're getting there.
Thank you, Councillor Beddows. Other members of council, Councillor Lajeunesse and then Bateman.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I attended both sessions of the budget virtual open house, and I was thoroughly impressed with all of the presentations. And I did speak to one member who was in attendance who was also very impressed. And this person is not easily impressed generally, so I took that as a very good sign. And so I wanted to thank all of staff for the presentations. They were very well done.
Thank you, Councillor Lajeunesse. Councillor Bateman.
So yeah, I was looking back at the float plane discussion about the Prestige a couple of years ago, and at that same meeting, Councillor Ray had brought forward the first attempt to get a off-leash exemption on the Goose from the upper level Soup Potholes parking lot out to the beach town. And I don't think I've reported out on how the latest attempt to get that happening failed. So I'll very quickly summarize that back on October 28th, the CRD's Parks and Environment Committee rejected the latest attempt. Mayor Tait had put through a follow-up motion after the first defeat. And the interesting things about this process was that we learned that in 2019, CRD rangers were involved in 144 incidents where dogs were spotted off leash, and this is between the Chosen and Leechtown. And of those 144, they resulted in 105 educational conversations, which is the CRD Park Rangers' first approach. They're defined as friendly frontline ambassadors. They provide a uniform diplomatic presence. So with all CRD Parks bylaws, they do attempt this education first process. So there were, again, 105 educational conversations. There were 11 formal warnings for people whose dogs were clearly not under effective command. And in those cases, a second warning would generate a ticket. As it turns out, in all of 2019, there was only one ticket issued, and that was for a dog owner who was particularly belligerent and aggressive, in fact, to the bylaw officer. So I guess the message to those individuals in Souk who do like to walk their dogs off leash on the Goose is that you know, the CRD and the district can obviously not say, give you tacit approval, but the fact is that you will get, if spotted by a CRD officer, an educational talking to about the importance of being on leash. However, if you've demonstrated that the dog is under command, then all will be well. If you are a dog owner who has a dog that is a problem, and there are examples of this in our community, then you will be ticketed, and so it goes. So no bad doggies, only bad owners. So that's the message to come out of all this. And so endeth a 3-year almost process.
It's a long process. Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Other members of council updates. Okay, so there's just a few items I'll share here. I participated with the Chamber of Commerce on their awards last night. And while I don't have all of the categories broken down, there was 439 businesses were nominated with over 3,400 votes coming in. The winners were Sea of Bloom, Stick in the Mud, Souk Food Bank, Kathy's Corner Cafe, Meanwhile in Souk, Sheringham Distillery, Len Banner Construction, West Coast Family Medical, another for Kathy's Corner, Langray Goldsmith, and the Castle Liquor Store were all award recipients this year, so that was really good news. I did share my $3,000 food bank win, probably the most challenging thing I've done all year. Not really, but I'm glad I entered. So I actually give credit to Dana, Councillor Lajeunesse, for reminding us to enter, because you never know, and sure enough, that was good advice. The mayors of the CRD are meeting usually every couple of weeks. We find not everyone can attend, but we do find that it's been very good for relationship building. So you may have seen editorial type pieces in the Times Colonist, as well as advocacy points that we've been doing and following up on. And then some of the discussion going forward is inviting the new UVic president to join in with us, and also to have a discussion with some of the building representatives. Other communities feel the same thing of the development community saying that municipalities are too slow to process. We're saying you have incomplete applications. So let's talk about this together and what sort of recommendations can we work on together. So that's something not just unique to us, it's happening everywhere else. I did participate in a meeting with the coastal communities with Minister Osborne to welcome her into her new role. Former mayor of Tofino, so excellent local government background, really keen to not just inform, but to consult with local governments. And she's well aware of us needing grants to advance our necessary work. So she did share she's meeting, probably has met now with Minister McKenna just to talk about those grant applications and to hopefully get some movement on them if that isn't happening already. Other initiative I'm now participating in is called a Housing Solutions Lab. So there's other folks involved, including Chief Planis, and a lot of this talks about the critical housing challenges impacting people that live in Sauk territory. We've seen significant development of housing within our on our territory, but nothing for the Sauk Nation. So what is going on here? And a lot of it is talking about that together. And so it's sort of a 2-year project that I'm involved in, and likely be a monthly, eventually quarterly meetings that are occurring. I shared out the CRD committees that I will be on in the new year, but at the last board meeting, there has been a change, and that is to sever planning, protective services, and transportation into 2. So transportation will be on its own, planning and protective services separately, just given the need that we need to coordinate better as South Island now, and the fact that our new Minister of Transportation comes from the island, South Island in particular, is really advantageous for us. So I did put in a request to move to the Transportation Committee instead of Planning and Protective Services. So we'll see where that lands in the new year. Councillor Lajeunesse may recall Wounded Warriors and their run that they kicked off within Souk last year. So they reached out to me. They are planning to do something again this year in 2021. So what that looks like, it really depends on what is available through the health measures, but I'll keep you posted. They'll be looking to be in Souk in February. I will also be meeting with our Girl Guides, the Pathfinder group, in January as well on a Wednesday. Excuse me. And it's always fun to connect with, I'm a former Girl Guide myself, so it's always fun to reconnect with our local Pathfinder group and just to connect with our future leaders. I love that. And I'll share with you, I'm also an honorary scout, and I'm very proud to have that title, actually. And I think that's it. I have I get distracted and I look out the window because our house has amazing, not our house, but our street is beautifully decorated for Christmas. So you can see the traveling public, either folks walking with their kids or doing the slow drive-by. And I'm very proud of the lights that I put up this year too. Anyway, small wins. Councillor Beddows, you had something to add?
Well, I just want to say, as everybody noticed the new sidewalks and how far they're progressing, and it's looking pretty good. I'm very impressed that we will, once it's all done, hopefully we have some sort of a ribbon cutting ceremony, because that's a lot of concrete they laid down there. And that's what the residents have been crying about for years. So pretty proud that that's going ahead like it is. Just a comment.
Thank you for that. I did go to the post office today, and I love that we have that brickwork extended as far as we do. And I think they've been able to roll a little bit further than had been intended, I'd thought. But we should do something to celebrate that. That's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it looks good. It's
It
gonna,
does.
yeah, by far, that's gonna make a big difference to a lot of people. Good stuff.
Yeah, we should do something with a long ribbon. And as just to echo what Councillor Logan said, and to build on that, I really want to thank all of you, all of council and all of our staff, just for adapting and working and coming together so well in this challenging year. I think we all have many ways of describing this year. Some may not be suitable words, adjectives for live webcast, so I'll leave it at that. But I think I know what you mean. I think there's sort of a light at the end of the tunnel for 2021. But I think there's just such a kindness that we see, and just a real attitude. Let's just help and support one another and get through this year. So really want to thank all of you. And I really want to thank our staff. We had a bit of a weird time getting used to how we can meet and what do we need to do and when can we meet and how do we counsel this and what do we do. So a lot of changes happening along the way. And then at the same time, we're like, yeah, we get that there's a pandemic, but we need all this other things done too. So please deliver on them. And we needed them not just yesterday, we needed them next week, and they all delivered. So I think as we head into the new year and we think about what our priorities are going to be, the wonderful thing to keep in mind is whatever we say we need done, they're going to do it. So let's think about that. And we know what long meetings look like, but we know that our staff will deliver on what we ask. So I'm very grateful for all of that, and for everyone in our organization for pulling together. Would love the idea down the road, when it's safe to do so, that we do some sort of an activity in some way. Maybe there's some kind of like you play ball, or I don't know, a tug of war, or it's a barbecue or something in the park. We've had new staff join us. We haven't all been able to connect with them. So let's just look for some kind of activity. I mean, this is likely going to be next September. Just to get everyone out there, we need to hit phase 4 of the reopening, but it's just something I think would be really nice to do in that way. So thank you to everyone. So that wraps up our council's verbal report. Item 12 now is our release of closed resolutions. So this will be the release of in-camera resolutions from December 14th, 2020. So thank you for putting this on the screen. So it is then that council appoint the following members to the Community Economic Development Committee for a 1-year term starting January 21st and expiring December 31st, 2021. Councillor Lajeunesse is the member of council, and it should also have with Councillor McMath as an alternate, and then Mr. Doug Wittich as the member of the Environmental Community, and RJ or Sam Purdy as the member at large. And then that council appoint the following members to the Climate Action Committee for a 1-year term starting January 1st, 2021 and expiring December 31st, 2021. Michael Tacon, Anna Russell, Cassandra Shostek, Elizabeth Lang, Jessica Prito, Shandel Holden, E.B. Clausen, Steve Unger, and Beatrice Gentil-Hitos. And I apologize for mispronouncing names. And That was it. So that we've already voted on that. So that's just a release now. And that brings us to item number 13, which is adjournment. So again, thank you everyone for the late night in the last couple of weeks, for coming back tonight, and to all of our staff for being available and present with us tonight as well. So extend my gratitude to all of you, and all of my blessings and wishes, can't speak, all of my blessings and well wishes to all of you for a joyous holiday season, and may we have a peaceful 2021. And on that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn, please, from Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor McMath. And on that, I hope to see you all soon. Be well. I'll call the question on adjournment. All in favor? None opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you so much, everyone. Be well. Drink lots of eggnog.